Hey, it's Sloth here. I'm so glad you came by. I'll get the kettle brewing while we get caught up. For today's video, we're going to be completing our team of Moth magical girls and making their villain too. If you didn't catch part 1, this is a little character design challenge I'm doing to help get over my fear of moths and butterflies by combining them with hyper cutesy designs. Though I would suggest maybe just watching part 1 and coming back so that you know the story up to this point and the personalities these last two girls are balancing out. The link will be in the description. But, just in case you decide not to, the basic rundown is that I'm making 5 girls so that they all have a role in the team using the 5-man band trope, and I'm giving them weapons that look like children's toys that have abilities based on their Moths adaptations. So far we've done the leader, the lancer and the big guy. With our explanation out of the way, let's get straight into the designs. As usual, we're doing these designs in the order that the girls join the team, so our 4th girl is the common blue butterfly. I was planning to only do moths for these designs, but I wanted each girl to have their own signature colour, and I couldn't find any interesting looking blue moths, so we have our only butterfly instead. Feel free to make up your own personal headcanons for why she's the only butterfly. Apologies if you only came for moth designs and have been clickbaited into watching a butterfly instead. It's truly tragic. Common blue butterflies have a fast and erratic flight pattern to avoid predators, and as caterpillars they have a symbiotic relationship with ants, where they exchange a nutrient-rich substance for protection. So we're giving this girl a set of playing cards, which she can use to summon various bugs, which help her and act like familiars. She's also the fastest out of all of the girls, especially when they gain their wings. I present to you Iris Amoros, the heart of our group. The heart feels like somewhat of a self-explanatory title, but if you're unfamiliar with the 5-man band trope, they're the character who manages the team's emotions, and the one who mediates conflicts and keeps up team morale. They're usually the character with the strongest and most uncomplicatedly good moral compass, so they're usually the person to point out if the team is starting to lose their way too. In her everyday life, Iris is the head and only member of the entomology club. She never really handed out any pamphlets for it, so most students aren't even aware it's a club. She's really into bugs and arachnids of any kind, but especially those which other people deem creepy or gross, like spiders or slugs. She actually finds them really cute and loves to study all their little behaviours. Naturally at home, she has an ant farm, giant African snails and a pet tarantula, all kept at proper distances in far too luxury tanks of course. She spoils them like they're her own children and has entire albums of pictures on her phone dedicated to cute pics of them. Sadly, no one else seems to share this enthusiasm. She quite likes the idea of owning a snake, but knows it'd make her too sad to feed it crickets and mice. She already gets emotional enough when people squash spiders that crawl into the classrooms. Since Iris is the only member of the entomology club, she spends most of her extracurricular time with the gardening and eco clubs, helping them with their pests and pollinators. She also just quite enjoys gardening too, and more often than not has dirt under her nails. She's quite clumsy, so is always covered in scrapes and plasters, but she doesn't seem to notice. Iris is very quiet and shy. Most people don't even remember she's in their class because she likes to keep to herself. I think she'd be one of those people who are so soft-spoken that you struggle to hear what they're saying. In general, Iris gets extremely nervous about talking to people, having been bullied most of her childhood for being strange. Despite this, she's very in tune with her emotions, and gives excellent advice thanks to her somewhat blunt observations. She's not always the most tactful, being quite out of practice with people. She's really bad at sticking up for herself and kind of lets herself be walked all over though, always being the one stuck with jobs no one else wants because she won't say anything about it. Her arc would be about gaining the self-confidence to be able to assert the things she really wants through first learning to stick up for others as Common Blue. Eventually being able to do things like hand out flyers for her club and tell her classmates not to squash the spiders they find. She's a people watcher at her core and has a very good understanding of others, which allows her to be an excellent mediator and friend, always happy to offer what help she can to whoever asks. Iris is a pretty good student and always passes her classes, so I imagine she'd be one of the girls helping Primrose and Marley's study, though she's not quite as academically inclined to Azalea or our last girl and can get easily distracted, so I think she'd be equally likely to be a tutor or a student in their little group depending on the subject and how boisterous Prim and Marley are being. She ended up joining the team after the Moth Girl trio, as it was then, went to her in their civilian forms. They had noticed that the sites that they fought the robots on had all become oil-slicken and polluted, with all the plants in the area dying. So they decided to ask advice from the Eco Club about how to combat this, of course pretending that the problem was more mundane in origin. Iris had been the one to help them and had advised them about how to restore these areas, but quickly became suspicious by their poor cover story, since what they were describing as the course didn't really add up with the effects. Nonetheless, she began to go to these diseased areas with the girls to teach them how to rejuvenate the soil and plant new seeds properly. It was at one of these gatherings that the group was attacked by one of the robots, having been watched the whole time unknown to them. The girls had no choice but to transform and reveal their identities to Iris in the process. However, the robot seemed to be targeting Iris in particular, seeming particularly wrathful at her. In its attack, it broke all of their gardening supplies and seemed just as focused on repolluting it as it was attacking. The girls struggled to fight it off while also trying to stop it from spreading its oil and crushing their supplies. Just as all hope seemed lost, and Iris had been knocked to the floor, she heard something calling to her from Primrose's bag. A set of playing cards, and the back of which had a picture of a common blue butterfly on it. As soon as she reached out for them, she was transformed. With her help and an army of ants she summoned, the group managed to fend off the robot, now having gained its fourth and presumably last member, as all the toys in the box were now gone. Soon the others explained to her what had happened, and she became a full-fledged magical girl under the alias Common Blue. She was nervous at first with the amount of confrontation the job required, as well as having to hang out with a group of relative strangers, but Primrose and Marley's loud and outgoing nature didn't leave much room for feeling excluded. And she liked to spend time with Azalea when things got a bit too loud, the two simply enjoying the other's silent company as they studied. If you're wondering, she of course was invited along to their D&D sessions, and quickly became a full-fledged dice goblin, thanks to Marley whispering on her shoulder like a devil. She grows to really enjoy being Common Blue and the camaraderie she has with the other girls. She's very passionate about protecting the environment and all the creatures in it, so takes their work very seriously. As Common Blue, she mediates the group's arguments and helps everyone keep a level head, keeping them grounded and focused. She's not one to really raise her voice, so she's very good at calming people down when they're angry as a de-escalator. Turns out Iris also has quite a protective streak and can't stand people or robots picking on her new friends, so she can get a bit wrathful to their enemies when the other girls are in danger. Her expertise in the environment is also extremely helpful, as they allow the group to learn how to properly manage the growing pollution the robots are spreading. I imagine her and Marley are being a particularly strong duo together for solo missions, since they're a good mix of tank and support, and Iris's calm nature really rubs off on Marley, and Marley would encourage her to let loose more and let herself get mad instead of becoming small and shying away. I could easily imagine them ending up dating because of this compatibility. After some initial squeamishness, I also think that Marley would warm up to Iris's pets, especially her tarantula. At first she'd just find how fluffy it is quite cute, but in the end be won over by all of Iris's gushing. Marley would definitely appreciate how cute Iris is, and Iris would really admire how confident and confrontational Marley is. In any case, I think they'd be those kind of best friends you get in friendship groups where they're clearly a lot closer than everyone else. They've both been lonely for most of their life, so they'd understand each other and really value that bond. Design-wise, her main shape is ovals, since I wanted her to feel soft and cute but with an edge of intelligence. If you weren't here for the last video, or if it's just been a while since you've seen it, shape language is something I'm really trying to highlight in these designs, just as a good bit of practice. I wanted her dress style to be very cute while feeling a little nerdy. I leaned into the anime influences pretty hard with her design, hence her loose hair that's shaped like a heart, as well as her random choker. In her civilian form, she's got an oversized cardigan with lots of scalloped edges to incorporate that oval shape, and a large plain collar just for the nerdy touch. Her outfit is pretty simple underneath, with a plain white button-up and a simple short pleated skirt. She's got a pretty long oval face with soft cheeks and hooded down-turned eyes to make her seem sweet and approachable, and I gave her thick round eyebrows and a rounded nose once again for those shapes. Iris also has freckles just because I think they're cute. I gave her pretty large low-set ears to help balance out her face. I gave her two loose messy braids and a middle parting that I made split in a way that looks like a heart. Accessory-wise, she's got some Mary Janes and cute lacy socks, her choker, which I mentioned before, and some simple golden hoop earrings. Her braids both have a bow in the end, and she's got some oval-shaped gold glasses too. Along with that, she's got a couple of plasters and bruises from her various accidents and gardening mishaps. As you'll recall from the last video, all the girls' ethnicities were chosen by a random country spinner, and their heights are based off of their Moths' relative sizes. Iris is Cuban and the shortest of the girls at 4'11". She's also transgender too, for the same reason that Io is, being that the male butterfly was just more interesting to look at. As Common Blue, she's got just so many bows and frills, because you can't have a magical girl theme without at least one of them being covered in frills. I used them to try and imitate the white lining on the butterfly's wings. Also, all of her bows are shaped like the butterfly's wings too, just as a fun detail. Along with the white frills, she also has brown lining, once again to look like her butterfly's wings more, as they have a subtle brown stripe along the edge of their wings. The rest of her outfit was really more creative license, since it's a pretty plain butterfly pattern-wise. Once again, I was trying to make her look somewhere between cute and nerdy while also incorporating those oval shapes. She's got a hoop skirt for that oval shape and a circular collar. It's covered by her hand, but under there's another bow, which you can briefly see in my reference sketch. The main way I was trying to imitate the butterfly was really through those butterfly-shaped bows everywhere. I gave her a single braid that's significantly neater than her civilian version, and a little bit longer too. As common blue, her hair changes to a navy colour. Of course she has to have even more bows in her hair too. For common blue's accessories, she's got heart earrings, blue nail polish, frilly bracelets, knee-high socks which end in big bows, and Mary Janes that also wrap around her ankles in bows. Despite her transformation, she's going to keep her glasses too, because it's a huge pet peeve of mine in superhero designs, when they need them in their civilian form but just take them off to fight. Like, girl, how are you not so blind right now that you're missing all of your villains? Colour-wise, she's basically just blue with white, gold and brown accents. Of course I had to do my bajillion lighting layers for her to match the rest of the designs. I think that's everything, so with that we're done with Iris. Here she is up close. I'm actually pretty happy with her magical girl form. I think it's super cute and looks decently like the butterfly despite how plain the butterfly itself is. I think her civilian design is cute, but maybe not as visually interesting as it could be. I'm not really sure, but it just feels like there's something missing. Maybe I should have added in some of those brown accents just for some more variety. I don't dislike it though, it's got potential, and I think her socks and braids are fun. As always, let me know what you think and which magical girl is your favourite at the end. And with that, let's get into our next design. Before we can talk about our last magical girl, we need to get to know our villain a little bit. I love a good uncomplicatedly pure evil villain who revels in being evil from time to time. If nothing else, they're oh so fun to design for. So I introduce to you Queen Vespera, our big bad and pollution itself. When I was first brainstorming villain ideas, I considered making her a bat since they're big hunters of moths, but I decided instead to lean more into the fact that the moths and butterflies are pollinators, and made their villain basically be the concept of industrialization in a fancy dress. She's a robot, much like her henchman, even though she's far more refined and ladylike. Don't be fooled by her pretty face though, between those joints is simply a writhing mass of oil. In fact, most of her is oil, she leaves a trace of it wherever she steps. I was really inspired by this drawing I found on Pinterest that I extremely upsettingly can't find the artist for. When I reverse image searched for it, the only thing that came up was other reposts of it, so if any of you guys know who the original artist was, please let me know. Reminded that Pinterest is basically just the art theft site, I suppose. In any case, this piece really influenced my design, which I'm sure you can tell in the speed paint, since I just wholesale stole the 3-header mask design. Vespera is the queen of a separate mechanical world, made up of only intricate machines and toxic fumes. The whole place is a desolate wasteland with seas of oil, no plants being able to grow there due to the conditions. Its people were forced to live in the few livable cities that remained under Vespera's iron rule. At the core of her world is her heart, a furnace that burns and keeps both Vespera and the world alive. Once upon a time, her world was like any other, full of luscious plants and thriving ecosystems, but her furnace heart demands to be fed, to grow larger, and nothing ever seems to satisfy it. Which is what brings her to our world. She covets the Earth's natural resources so that she might grow even stronger. Each time her pollution is spread, she grows just that incrementally more powerful. In true villain fashion, her grand plan is to take over the Earth so that she may destroy it in her pursuit for power. She was created by the old king of this other world. He had been inspired by the inventions of the human realm, and the love he had found there with a human scientist, a brilliant roboticist who helped him create Vespera before her death. He had hoped that Vespera would be a step towards progress, and that she might balance out their world's unstable core, but instead she took on its instability. Slowly she became more and more corrupted, until she was nearly unrecognizable. Soon she turned against the king. Seeing the destruction that she had wrought, he made the moth weapons in one last act of desperation, so that someone may be able to stand up against Queen Vespera. The last time he was seen was 4 years ago. He had attempted to flee the land with the box of weapons and his daughter. His attempt had been unsuccessful and he was recaptured, never to be seen again, but his daughter escaped, now entrusted with safeguarding the box. Vespera, knowing the box's contents, is of course desperate to get it back, as it, and the power that it can give, is the only thing that stands between her and ultimate power. Queen Vespera masks her evil behind an old Hollywood starlet type of personality, always larger than life and so self-assured. I imagine she'd take on an almost matriarchal tone with the girls, calling them darling and chastising them like small children and condescendingly pinching their cheeks. The king, in his love for his late wife, had designed her partially based off of her, hoping to recreate her class, elegance and intelligence, so that she might in some way be immortalised, even if she could not finish creating Vespera alongside him. So she's a warped version of a lot of those traits, hence her somewhat motherly nature. A distorted monument to his love and grief. Don't get it twisted though, Vespera has taken on quite the life of her own, leading her armies and sending all sorts of new inventions to Earth. She speaks in a voice so smooth you almost don't realise what she's convincing you of. Her style is very much her own as well. Vespera doesn't like to debase herself with unnecessary violence. That's what henchmen are for, instead preferring to talk and manipulate her way out of situations when she can. And when she can't, well, she's never too far from her army. Most of the time she keeps a calm and level head, seeming almost untouchable in her smug condescension, but she is as erratic as the world's core is. Vespera is prone to violent and angry outbursts, and sudden changes in mood make her unpredictable and all the more dangerous. Vespera is also quite literally toxic to be around, just being next to her making people lightheaded and nauseous, even without her constant smoking. This makes it extremely hard to hold a conversation with her without being pulled into an odd sense of security. Surely everything will be fine if you just let Vespera handle it, right? In terms of design, her main shape is of course triangles to make her look properly villainous. And like I said before, I really wanted her to feel like a glamorous old Hollywood star, someone you would look up to because there's something unachievable about her. I gave her a tight-fitting slick black dress made out of oil that ends in sharp points at the bottom, and a business suit jacket with sharp exaggerated shoulder pads and large puff sleeves. After all, she might be a proper lady, but she's also a capitalist. Her suit jacket is decorated by oil that's constantly dripping to mimic lace edges. Vespera, true to her two-faced nature, has multiple faces, each for a different mood, which turn in place depending on how she feels, with a click, click, click. She always wears a golden mask of some kind to obscure her face. Underneath it, it becomes obvious the way that the corruption runs through her. Her eyes are red and fiery, a reflection of her furnace heart, and as such are always smoking. I wanted her forearms to almost look like long white gloves, so they also come to an exaggerated point, as do her fingernails, just for the drama of it. The gold pattern on her hands and arms was to loosely look like the bones a human would have in these areas, so that she'd look just that little bit extra creepy. I really wanted her to feel almost uncanny valley in her proportions, so everything is very exaggerated and pointy, which I feel like is a good contrast to Primrose. For accessories, she's got a long cigarette holder, which you'll never find her without, a gold necklace with diamond jewels to match her masks, and an extremely large dramatic hat, which I don't know the name of the style of. The feathers in her hat are also becoming polluted by being in her presence. Coming out of her hat is a long veil, also made out of oil, which partially obscures her. I imagine this is constantly moving as if it's alive. For her colour palette, she's pretty much just black, red, gold and white. I wanted her to feel classy and rich, but dangerous. I think that's everything, so we're done with Queen Vespera. Here she is up close, both with and without her veil. Honestly, I really like her design. I think she looks appropriately evil and sinister, and as much as anything I just love designing villains. One of my friends said she reminds them of Morticia Addams, and yeah, I can absolutely see that with this dress style and the way that her eyes glow. She's also a fun combination of reflecting and contrasting our next girl. Speaking of whom, let's talk about her, shall we? Our last moth is the Scarlet Tiger moth. When adult tiger moths feel threatened, they release a foul-smelling liquid that makes the predators feel sick, and makes them seem unappealing as prey. So, this girl has a bubble gun, which releases bubbles that when popped release a foul-smelling gas that corrodes metal, to help her fight the robots. Having a toxic gas weapon is also quite fitting for her, since she herself is from the mechanical world. I present our last and final member of the group, Nazrin Fazel. If you remember from the last video, all of the girls have flower names. Nazrin means wild rose. As I'm sure you've already guessed, Nazrin is the daughter of the king, and the mysterious girl who gave Primrose the box. Having been born to the king and a human mother, she grew up in the mechanical world, but with frequent visits to Earth, and being raised in touch with her human side, though her understanding of certain Earth customs is questionable at best. She inherited her parents' passion for robotics and intelligence, excelling with all of her tutors from a young age. Nazrin fills out our last role, being the smart guy of the group, which I feel like is a self-explanatory trope name. Having been a magical girl for the last 4 years, the longest of all the girls by a huge margin, and unfortunately extremely familiar with Vespera, she's able to come up with in-depth strategies and plans for the group and fights, and even in their interactions with Vespera. Nazrin also gives them vital information on the workings of the robots, her expertise helping her to quickly identify their weaknesses, leading to far more efficient takedowns. Since running away from Queen Vespera, Nazrin has been hiding out on Earth, fighting the robots that came as Scarlet Tiger when necessary, and travelling back to the other world to complete missions to weaken Vespera, like targeting her factories. Scarlet Tiger has become a symbol of the rebellion in the magical world. On her own though, she's managed to make very little progress in terms of being able to defeat Vespera once and for all, the dents she's been able to make in her operations only ever being temporary hindrances. Especially since she can't risk compromising her own hiding spot and being recaptured. Before the start of the story, she was living alone on Earth and getting by on her inheritance from her mother. She never went to school and dedicated all her time obsessively into taking down Vespera to take back her home and free her father. As you'll remember from our last video, our story starts with Nazrin being captured and giving the box of moth weapons to Primrose to protect as its new guardian, after seeing her selfless bravery. Since then, Nazrin has been locked away in Vespera's dungeons, away from all of the other political descendants, constantly being questioned on the identity of this new guardian and her fellow teammates, but Nazrin has said nothing. Even if she knew, she wouldn't tell them, her stubbornness perhaps rivaled only by her hatred for Vespera. Nazrin tries frequently to escape, not content to just wait to be saved, but never succeeds. On her most recent attempt though, she was able to make her way to Vespera's throne room unnoticed. Vespera was watching the Moth team fight some of her henchmen through a portal, and Nazrin saw her chance. She rushed forward, and when caught through one of Vespera's teleporter devices through the portal to the other girls, Primrose instantly recognised the other girl, even in her prison uniform, and grabbed the device. Unfortunately, Nazrin herself didn't have time to jump through, and was recaptured, but her plan was already working. Soon the girls would know what was really at stake. Not long after, the other girls discovered how the teleporter worked, and began understanding the nature of the robots and their threat clearer than ever, through a recon mission to their mechanical world. They began to strategize a way to free Nazrin after learning of the prison she was held in, Primrose having always felt guilty for being unable to help her when they first met. The team agreed that having an extra teammate who could tell them more about their powers and what Vespera wanted would be an invaluable asset and worth the risk, not to mention it was clearly the right thing to do. Through a difficult mission and some excellent teamwork, the girls were able to free Nazrin and retrieve her weapon. They barely managed to escape back to Earth though, nearly getting incinerated by one of the robot guards' flamethrowers. Back at Earth, Nazrin berated them for the risk in saving her, telling them it would have been wiser to leave her and instead focus on attacking Vespera, as well as criticising their lack of appropriate caution and recklessness in their jailbreak. Nazrin is very cynical and pessimistic, but has a deep sense of responsibility and honour, especially about protecting her people, so views the girl saving her as a decision made from sentimentality rather than strategic thinking. After all, the girls could have easily been captured themselves, and then there would be no one left to stand up to Queen Vespera. Nazrin views being Scarlet Tiger more like being a knight or a soldier than anything else, so the other girl's cheerful optimism is initially vexing for her. Nazrin is a very overly serious person. Even before Vespera's creation, she preferred to keep to facts and was usually the last person to understand a joke. She's never had many friends her own age, instead loving to spend time with her parents in their lab, or else happily chatting with her tutors. She wasn't a lonely child by any means, and considered her childhood a very happy one, but her lack of socialising with other kids does really show in her stern attitude and poor social skills. She approaches friend making more like how you would business connection making, and is very overly formal and professional, since most of the new people she's ever met were political leaders or her mother's work colleagues. Nazrin is also pretty jumpy and quick to confrontation, grabbing her bubble gun, always worried about an ambush or tricks. This can lead to some pretty awkward first outings with her new teammates, as she's not really used to going outside for hangouts. Or, going outside in general. Over time spent with the other girls, she'd begin to thaw out a bit. She's always very excited to encounter new Earth things, happily making notes on them and fangirling at all the various machines and technology on Earth. She developed a particular love for the arcade and will always vote to go there whenever they need a hangout spot. Although I feel like her and Marley would get into some very competitive games there, especially in basketball hoops and air hockey. The other girls tend to leave them to it when they get wound up like that because it can get messy to get in between them, and they seem to be enjoying themselves. Mostly. Primrose always distracts Azalea from joining in on these competitions by insisting on winning her the biggest prizes she can and playing racing games with her. The one time she joined Nazrin and Marley's competition, she lost and pouted about it for at least a week. She takes losing quite hard on her self-esteem, hence Prim's distractions. Iris tends to either join Prim and Azalea in the racing games, which she almost always wins, or play all of the solo games until she's quietly amassed a mountain of tickets. She mostly enjoys bowling and the snack food at the arcade, though even she can get competitive when it comes to bowling. Nazrin eventually joins their school after the other girls learn that she's never been to one and insists that she really needs to. She was hesitant at first, feeling uncomfortable with so many unknown new people, but she quickly warmed up upon their first metalworking class, and ended up taking great pride in her excellent grades. She'd be one of those people to unironically love test taking and be upset when the teachers forgot to give them homework. Nazrin, of course, ends up joining the robotics club, but not long after that also joins the coding club. She insists the club activities are simply to help them in their fight against Vespera, but Nazrin just really enjoys making small video games and toys, and can frequently be found tinkering away. Her arc is about learning to enjoy life and share her burdens instead of carrying everything by herself and acting like a mini soldier. I think she'd get on with all of the girls equally well, though at first I imagine she'd be pretty hesitant about Primrose due to her upbeat attitude and daydreaming, feeling especially tense about this as she was the one to make Prim the leader and a magical girl. But by this point Azalea is pretty far down her own arc, and having had similar doubts in the past reassures Nazrin of Primrose's skill as a leader. Over the course of being a team, she comes to find her optimism comforting and relies on it for boosting her own morale. I think this is one of the big things that would help her towards becoming less overly serious. Nazrin and Azalea, being the two most similar members of the group, get along quite well, appreciating that there is someone else who they can share concerned glances with when the other girls get out of hand. The two can often be found studying in the library together. Iris is great with Nazrin as she finds Iris's blunt honesty to be clear and comforting rather than hurtful, appreciating that it's almost impossible to feel deceived by her. Iris is very good at calming her down when she becomes overly paranoid without making her feel belittled because of this. Through working as a team, the girls eventually discover that Nazrin's father, the king, is still alive and being held in the deepest dungeons near the mechanical world's core, their new mission obvious. Now, with her story out of the way, let's talk design. We're going to do things a little differently with her by talking about her magical girl design first, since that's what she really defines herself by. I wanted her style to be more princely than cute, and her to be on the more handsome side, so in her magical girl form she has a frilly cravat and gold buttons with braiding. Her shirt also ends in frills to match her cravat. Her main shape is rectangles as she's reliable, stubborn and strong, so her shirt comes down in a rectangle segments. I made triangles be her secondary shape to indicate her intelligence and cunning, so most of her shapes end in sharper points compared to the other girls' designs. I made her hijab change into doubling as a cape in her magical girl form, which has the colours and patterns of the Moths' wings on them, with the yellow and white ovals over the bottom half of it. Her trousers are formal dress trousers which end in triangular cuffs, which are decorated with the same gold buttons as her belt to give a sense of unity to the design. She also has what I'm choosing to describe as a tunic, because I'm not sure how else to describe it, which under her cape mimics the way the Moth's upper wings cover its red bottom ones. She has a black belt to segment the upper and lower portion of the tunic. On the lower tunic she has black ovals decorating it to mimic her Moth's wings. Overall, both of her designs are pretty simplistic compared to most of the other girls, in hopes that it conveys how efficient and practical she is. Accessory-wise, she has gold goggles with red lenses that are rectangular, these work as her glasses in her magical girl form, and a little clip shaped like a Scarlet Tiger moth, and big platform boots as well as black nail polish. In her civilian form, she dresses in a formal gothic-ish style, once again keeping her more princely fashion influences. Since her moth has so much prominent black, it felt right to lean in and make her somewhat alt. She has a cropped jacket and a button-up shirt that both come into a triangular point at the front, her shirt having a squared collar and rectangular gold buttons too. She has a loose pair of trousers that flare slightly at the bottom and end in a squared off shape. She wears her hijab in a more loose-fitting style to better match the flaring shape on her trousers in her civilian form, and has two rectangular clips decorating it. For her accessories, she has rectangular fashion chains. The one on her hip has a little heart attached, because it was in the outfit inspiration I stole from Pinterest and it was too cute to get rid of. Her glasses are obviously also rectangular. She keeps her black nails and platforms in both designs. Face-wise, I gave her a rectangular face with a pretty strong jawline, though it's covered by her hijab in both these poses. She has upturned eyes with sharp eyeliner to make her look intelligent and untrusting. Her nose is down tilted slightly and sharp for those triangular shapes. Nazrin doesn't really wear much makeup because I didn't think a bold look would suit her personality. I gave her a long prominent scar on her lip and running down the left side of her face, because scars are cool and she's been at this magical girl gig for a while now, so it felt fitting. I also gave her a lot of moles since her moth is so spotty. Nazrin is the third tallest of the girls, or the third shortest depending on how you look at it, at 5'6", and the oldest at 18, being 2 years older than the second tallest member. She's Iranian, which is quite apt as I believe Scarlet Tiger moths are actually native to Iran as well as some parts of Europe. For her body type I wanted her to look pretty strong and athletic with a rectangular shape overall, though not as buff as Marley, just for the variety in the group. For her colours, she's wearing black and red with navy, white and gold accents here and there, and she's of course got just as many unnecessary lighting layers as the rest of the girls. And with that done, we're now done with our last magical girl and our team is complete. Here she is up close. She probably has one of my favourite civilian outfits, and I'm really happy with her face. Honestly, I quite like her magical girl form too, but maybe this is just my bias towards a princely or alt aesthetic speaking. I don't think I've ever drawn a character with a hijab before, and it was fun finding different ways to style hers. Overall though, I do think her design was a return to form for me. I do tend to lean towards alt futch when I'm designing any of my non-historical girls. Can't blame a guy for appreciating fashion when I see it. Here are all the designs together. This was a fun challenge, though admittedly I did feel the exhaustion of doing 11 drawings near the end, which I hope doesn't show in the actual drawings. If you've made it to the end of this little series, let me know which character has turned out to be your favourite, or just which design you like best. Coming up with a little story for these girls was fun practice, and a really handy way of giving their designs more personality, rather than just being generic magical girls, so I wouldn't be opposed to doing something like this again in the future. You guys seem to really enjoy my last one of these too, given the fact that it's my best performing video yet. So if there's particular designs or a story setting you'd want to see in the future, let me know in the comments. I might need a little break from doing quite so many designs in one go, and a story for a while though, so expect some smaller projects and redesigns coming up in the meantime. Hopefully with a smaller gap in between videos next time. Life's been a bit hectic, so this one was a little late coming out. And as I'm sure you all can see, we've had a little bit of a glow up in terms of the amount of expressions I am now capable of making, so I've been busy. Anyway, if you liked this video and want to see more stuff like it, but don't want to rely on the homepage suggesting my stuff again, maybe subscribe and check out my other videos. It's been nice having you all around. I hope you drop by again.